so that we, okay. So just so you all know, it is being recorded. So hi, welcome everyone. This is North Carolina Redistricting Update. My name is Bree Bro. I am the North Carolina digital organizer with All on the Line. My friend and colleague, Ted Corcoran, is also here with from All on the Line. And we may have another All on the Liner joining us as well, Matt Ruberg. I'm not sure if Matt's here yet or not. Y'all are welcome to put questions in the chat. And Ted, if you see questions as I'm going and you want to stop me, feel free to do that. And we'll also do time for questions at the end. So welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Quickly, just in case this is anybody's first time with us, All on the Line is a 501c4 campaign. We exist to bring citizens across every issue to win on redistricting. I've got to update this slide. It is now 2022. We're still trying to win on redistricting. And we just exist to raise awareness about the importance of redistricting, the harmful impacts of gerrymandering, and to help folks engage in the process, which is ongoing here in North Carolina. Our agenda for tonight, we did our introduction and housekeeping. We're going to do a quick update on what's happening with the redraw, go over the timeline of what we expect to happen over the next week, and then we'll have some time for Q&A, and we've got a couple of next steps for y'all. If you haven't already, I see a lot of folks are already doing this. Appreciate that. Please introduce yourselves in the chat so folks know who's in the space, your name and pronouns, the location where you are in North Carolina or outside of North Carolina where you're joining from. And if you want to lift up any organizational affiliations that you have, welcome that as well. Okay, the redraw update. Okay, so as you all know, a couple weeks ago, let's see, a week, 2 Fridays ago, the Supreme Court issued a order overturning the enacted state legislative, so North Carolina House, North Carolina Senate, and congressional maps. They required them to be redrawn. The order said that by law, the North Carolina legislature has 2 weeks to redraw. Whenever maps are overturned, they get 2 weeks to redraw. So the legislature has the opportunity to redraw the maps. The order also said that all of the parties to the case that they were hearing, of which there are 4, including the legislative defendants, and then there are 3 plaintiffs. So each of those parties can submit remedial maps to the court. And then the case basically went back down to the trial court that initially heard it, and they are in charge of it now. So that's kind of where we are with that. The legislature pretty much sat on its hands for about a week. They whined and complained that the order wasn't specific, that they didn't know what to do. There was much woe, and they eventually started, the Senate leadership released a statement saying that they were attempting to negotiate an end product, which I don't know about y'all, but I love having my voting maps referred to as a negotiated end product, but whatever. So they attempted some negotiation. They were doing, everything is happening over the past week has been happening in private. According to journalists who have been paying attention, there's been a room where the Democrats are working in a room where the Republicans are working, and theoretically they were meeting at some points. So try not to look at the chat because it was distracting me. So they attempted to redraw the maps. This week seems like when they actually came back to the building and started working in earnest on the maps. But again, we've had volunteers who have been calling and talking to their legislators and to the committee. And it seemed like they didn't do anything for a really long time. And then they got together and were basically doing it in private. So nobody knew what was happening until last night they released some maps, and then this morning. So I think late last night they released a congressional map, and then this morning they released the maps, the rest of the maps. So there's now we've seen 2 potential congressional maps and a House map and a Senate map. They were released to the committee members about an hour, at least the Democrats on the committee, about an hour before the meeting where they were supposed to vote on them. So the House met this morning. The meeting's scheduled to be at 11. I think it was a little late. The Senate met at 4:30, also was later than expected, and voted on their maps, discussed their maps and voted on them. It has become pretty clear that the
volunteers.
If you are not, I should have said this at the top, but make sure you're muted if you are not unmuting to ask a question. So there was some debate in the committee. It sounds like that first of all, there was not an ability to actually, these maps are not like agreed upon collaborations. They basically said that they tried but couldn't actually negotiate anything, couldn't come up with a map that everyone felt was acceptable. There was a lot of discussion about the maps in the committees, what changes were made, why they were made, what tests are being used to determine whether they comply with the court order. So the court laid out, said that there are a number of tests that one can use to determine whether maps meet their standards, including efficiency gap analysis and mean median analysis and several others. The legislature chose efficiency gap and mean median analysis as the ones that they decided that they were going to use, and none of the others. And there was some debate about whether those were sufficient, were good, and the way that they came about, they came about determining that they think these maps are fair. So that was yeah. Let me see if I can mute all.
Hey, and Bree, this is Matt. If you can make me a co-host, I think I can.
Yes.
mute
Hey,
people.
Matt.
Yeah, if you want to do that for me, Bree, also.
Yes. Thank y'all. At the beginning. Is that feedback from my end? All right.
Okay, I think we got it. I'll keep an eye on it, Bree, for you.
Thank you. Okay, so so the committees discussed the maps, voted on the maps. The maps passed both committees. The state House map passed the House committee. The Senate map passed to the Senate committee on party line votes. They have not voted on, I can't remember actually if the House voted on the congressional map, but I don't think so. I think that that neither committee has discussed the congressional maps yet, and those will go through committee tomorrow. We also expect votes on the House floor tomorrow on these new maps. The other thing I wanted to just mention is that the trial court, which is now in charge of the case, is now going to decide which of these maps are acceptable. They released an order last week saying that they were going to appoint a special master and asking for each part of the parties in the case to nominate people that they wanted to, that they would suggest as special masters. All of the parties did that. The Republican legislature nominated a Republican operative. All of the plaintiffs nominated Nathan Persily, who had been the special master in a previous case. And then one of the plaintiffs nominated like 7 other people. Today, the court announced or issued a shared who they had chosen to be the special master, and they named 3 people who are not redistricting experts, but who are former North Carolina judges, Bob Orr, Robert Edmonds, and Thomas Ross. I don't really know anything else at this point about that. It just happened maybe an hour or 2 ago, but those are the people that the court will rely on to help them figure out which of these maps is acceptable to the court. So that's where we are kind of with that. Are there any questions? I'm going to get to the timeline next, but maybe we'll pause there and see if folks have questions, because I know it's like a lot of information. I'm also not, I can drop a link to the maps, but I'm not going to go into the maps themselves very deeply, because they were just dropped and we don't really have, I don't have good analysis of them. Other than that, they don't really look very good. There's a question from Isabel in the chat. Do the maps still have to go through each of the full chambers? Yes. So each map that has to pass through the committee and then has to pass through the full chamber. And we expect that will happen tomorrow, because like the timeline that we'll get to in a minute, the maps are due, all of the remedial maps that they want to be considered from the legislature or from the other parties to the case are due to the court tomorrow, on Friday. Today's Wednesday, on Friday. And do we know enough about the masters to have an opinion of their impartiality? I don't know enough about them. I know that they were judges. My concern is just how much my understanding was that the purpose of having the special master was so that you'd have someone who understands like statistical analysis and the tools that the court said one would use to determine whether the maps were fair, were partisan, would it be acceptable partisan fairness? And I don't know.
I think there's another question. The governor has no veto power, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Governor Cooper cannot veto the maps.
And then I noticed that Ted is mentioning something, and this is something that we're all dealing with right now, that there's things moving at the moment. And I don't know if that's an accurate timeline that we're seeing. I know things are happening very quickly right now.
Yes, things are happening very quickly. So the Senate did, the redistricting committee did pass the maps out of the Senate a few hours ago. I actually didn't know that the full House was scheduled to go into session again tonight at 7:30, but that will be interesting. We probably won't be on here the whole hour, so if folks want to hop over there and watch that, I would certainly encourage that.
And I'll keep an eye on live updates from WRAL on some of the news sources while we're in this. And if anything comes up that I can go and find, I'm going to go and post in there. And it might be helpful if anybody else has any links of anything happening within the hour. That might be helpful also. Amazing.
Yeah. Y'all feel free to put stuff in the chat if there's information that you have. I think I've got some links to the Senate map, which I'll drop, and the congressional map. Hopefully this one works too. These are from NC Counts, has a tool that they've loaded these into. That y'all can see those maps on. And also I think that they're on the ncledge.gov website, just the pictures of the maps. If the court picks a plaintiff map, does the NCGA still have to vote on it? No. The NCGA has to pass their map, and then I'm pretty sure this is correct. The court can then choose that map, choose one of the plaintiff's maps, or I think they could theoretically choose like pieces of each, like kind of make their own map, but I don't know. Great, thanks, Scott. So Nils, the criteria used by the NCGA to draw the maps are things like counties have to be kept whole, one person, one vote. They made the criteria and they chose not to look at partisan data or racial data. That was another thing I wanted to mention, is that the order from the Supreme Court said that the parties who were going to submit maps needed to conduct a racially polarized voting analysis, which is a specific analysis that's done to determine whether their racially polarized voting exists and whether there then needs to be districts that would comply with the Voting Rights Act. And the legislature opted to, in my view, it does not sound like they actually did that. They used some data from expert testimony to determine that they don't need to, that it complies, that their map complies. So that's what happened. Doesn't the fact that the maps were done in private violate the court order? No, I don't think it does. I don't think that this court order required them to do it in public. That was true of previous cases that I believe it was the 2017 or 2019 redraw, that the court required this public drawing, but that was not the case this time. Okay. I'm going to go into the timeline, and then again, if folks have questions, and if you folks feel free to please, the two links I posted are the same. I'm sorry, I'll find them before we get off of here. And I can also probably send a follow-up email with links. So here's the timeline of what we kind of expect to happen now. So by Friday, the NCGA and other parties have to submit their new maps. Then the parties can submit comments on the map. So on the other parties' maps, they can submit comments on those maps to the court by February 21st. By February 23rd at noon, the trial court must select a map. And then any motion for an emergency stay. So if any party objects to the map that is chosen, they can file for an emergency stay. And that has to be done by 5 p.m. on the 23rd. At that point, it would go back to the North Carolina Supreme Court, and we don't really know what would happen after that. Okay, good. Thanks. Scott posted a link to the two maps. Perfect. So Dr. Fairfax asked a question, do we have to accept these maps if they are not satisfactory, which it sounds like they may not be? That will be up to the court, to determine whether the maps comply with the court order. And if any of the parties object, and say the trial court selects a map and some of the parties object to the map that's selected, there is an opportunity to raise that objection, and that would then go back to the Supreme Court. Okay, any other questions about that or anything here?
So Bree, I'm confirming that it's sessions in recess until 7:30. And I can post the link to the YouTube channel for the House session that's going to be coming back in.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ted.
And I see Gary Mayer with his hand up. Gary, do you have a question?
Yes. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Bree, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good, just making phone calls and, talking just below the process of getting arrested. But, I just have to believe that Ben Clark is insanely busy right now, but, can anyone reach out to him and get his read in regard to how this stuff looks sometime in the near future?
I would definitely suggest, folks can call his office and ask him for we've had volunteers who have been calling redistricting committee members and their own reps. And it's actually a great way to get information. They will tell you whatever they can
Okay,
tell you. So I would recommend doing that.
thanks. Just wanted to say thank you guys for all your work during this process. It's been quite helpful and very inspirational. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Let's see here. Appreciate that. All right. So we've got the Q&A, and then I'll go ahead and just share a couple of next steps. So we are looking at the maps. It does not look like they are acceptable in our view. You know, it seems like what's happening from what I've seen is that the Republicans took the guidance that the court gave them, and rather than try to actually fix the issues, the gerrymandering issues that were specifically spelled out in the trial and in the by the court in the opinion, rather than try to fix those issues, they've just tried to basically draw maps that sort of game the scores that they like, to try to get maps that will pass muster, not that are actually addressing the problems or that are actually fair or representative or giving any mind to, you know, representing communities in North Carolina. So we are not we're not supportive of these maps. And we will share a call and email tool if you want to call and reach out or email your reps and talk to them about that. Also, there's some great information in the chat. If folks have been talking to their reps or have additional information, please drop it in the chat for people to see. We are also planning our February statewide meeting is February 24th. We set it on that date because we knew that the process would be at a, you know, hopefully wrapping up then, but certainly that's once we kind of know, we'll know, that's the next big moment when we'll know kind of what's happening. So I will drop the link to that in the chat as well. And we would love for y'all to join us there. And Leica will be there. We miss Leica. Is someone at all on the line going to do an analysis of the map so that we have specifics? We will, I don't know whether that will be able to happen in a timely manner, but I will look around. I've seen some analysis from folks, and I'll try to find that and put it together. I didn't have time to do it before this call, but we'll try to put together some analysis of that someone has done that we think is reliable to share with folks. So folks have some specifics. Like I said, they just came out today, and it takes time to, you know, actually look at the maps and analyze them, figure out what's going on. So Nils asked a question, what does All on the Line think is a fair map? I don't think that we have a, you know, a specific map that we think is a fair map. I would say that a fair map is a map that, you know, takes the public comment and what people have been asking for and does that. There are some very clear things that people asked for in public comments over and over and over again in North Carolina, keeping the triad, the cities of the triad together in a congressional district, having a Sandhills district rooted in Cumberland County, not splitting the, you know, large counties more than once, more than they needed to be for population reasons, things like that, you know, not breaking apart Black communities or communities especially in the northeast of the state. So those kinds of things I think are what we would say make for a fair map. And also, you know, maps that are drawn in public where we actually know what's gone into them. Okay. Any other questions? I know this was a quick update, but we just wanted to have an opportunity to bring folks kind of up to speed and answer questions because everything's happening very quickly and will continue to happen quickly, I would imagine, between now and Friday. Looking at the chat, see if there's anything else in there. All right, well. It sounded like the point of tonight's session at the NCGA, it sounded like they're going to be discussing some amendments to the house map. So I think that could actually be pretty interesting. We should all go over there and check that out.
I thought there was supposed to be a meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, no, with the NCGA?
I actually, does anybody know the answer to that? I don't know that I have actually looked at what time they're meeting tomorrow. I bet somebody here does know though.
8:45, the Senate. Or the House.
8:45, the Senate's meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
8:45. And I'll pop the link to the legislative website again.
Yeah,
And
I think
just
Ted Moan just pasted it. Thanks, Ted.
perfect. Yeah, thank you, Ted.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, y'all.
Bree, I think I just want to echo what everyone's saying. Thank you, Bree. I know this is tough. You're on the spot, so I'm going to echo what everyone's saying in the chat, and thank you for all your hard work and
Thanks.
doing this
That's
for
really,
us.
thanks, y'all. I feel like I'm missing half my brain without Leica. We're good at the tag teaming. I miss her a lot in this moment, but she'll be back with us next on the 24th. And I do appreciate all of you coming out for this. I hope it was helpful. We put this meeting on the calendar when we didn't really know what was going to be going on. We just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity for an update. And I will send an email with the tools. We have some tools that I think they'll be ready tonight, and we'll send them in the morning, and you can share them with your networks, use them yourself to call your senator, your reps, and let them know what you want them to do on the maps. Yes, thank you all for being here. Thanks. All right, thanks everybody. Yeah, our brains are fried. My brain is fried. Yeah, it's exhausting. Watching people just constantly gaslighting is exhausting. I don't know if anybody's been watching those the committee meetings, but woo, it's hard to handle. All right. See a lot of people in the chat. Okay, well, I guess if nobody else has any questions, we can stay on and talk about things in the chat, but we'll close it out for now. I think people probably either you want to drop the link. Ted, would you mind dropping the link again in the chat for the committee meetings, or if y'all go to the ncledge.gov website, there is a let's see, somebody just sent it to me.
I just dropped the YouTube link
Great.
for you.
There's a
Yeah.
YouTube link, also ncledge.gov, ncleg.gov. If you go to calendars and legislative calendar, that lists all of the committee meetings for that day, and there's a little blue dot, a little blue link at the right with a stream button, and you can stream the committee meetings there. There's also an audio link, but often they are streamed on video. And Ted dropped the YouTube video. The legislature has YouTube as well. So if anyone, I'll also drop my email in the chat. If anyone has questions, you're welcome to reach out. Okay. I will do a follow-up email for this. It will probably go out tomorrow morning once we have the tool up, and I'll try to include some links to the maps and some public analysis that we've seen. I don't think we'll have anything, but by then. But yeah, I will send a follow-up email in the morning with some a recap and some information. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, thanks y'all. Appreciate everyone being here. I'm gonna stop my screen.
Thanks, Grace.
Raise faces. Good to see y'all. All right.